So if you're new here on the channel, my family and I are looking at upgrading our Prado 150 that we use for towing a caravan up to potentially the Prado 250. So it's something that we've been really looking into and seriously considering. So we did a test drive video, and I also did another video a couple of days ago about some of the problems that I've found through doing some research online and looking through the comment section in our previous video. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a deep and very detailed dive into all of the information that I have found out so far, and especially this week as Toyota are releasing information as they're going. And I'm comparing a lot, it's very, very detailed, and I'm comparing a lot of spec sheets for all of the Prado 250 competitors to help me and my family make up our mind as to whether or not we want to upgrade from our 150, or maybe we should be looking elsewhere for a towing rig. So like I mentioned, this is going to be a really detailed, deep dive into the Prado 250. So if you are like me and my family considering getting a Prado 250, this video is the one for you. So we're going to be looking at some videos, some comments, and also a comparison table spreadsheet that I have done up based off the manufacturer's specifications for not only the Toyota lineup, but also some of the other manufacturers and competitors. So it's going to be very detailed, and we're going to get stuck straight into the very first clip, which is about installing a tow ball, which you would imagine be a pretty simple thing for a Prado 250. But we're going to have a look and see what one gentleman's experience was of installing a tow ball on his Prado 250. So our first video comes from the YouTube channel 2020 Jayco Expander. I'll leave links to all of the channels that I refer to in today's video. I'll leave them in the description for you to check out. So this guy's got a few Prado 250 videos out there at the moment. So if you want to have a look at some of his stuff, go ahead, check him out. Very informative. And this one's quite an unbelievable one. So I'm going to let this run for a little bit, and we're going to break it down when it is finished. So let's get started.
I just had an interesting conversation with the Toyota parts department, and they say no tow bar for me. To be fair, they were very nice about it, but they essentially explained that Toyota will not sell accessories individually for the first 3 to 4 months because they didn't say it like this, but you could read between the lines. They basically want you to buy it as an option so they can charge you the fitting them with a new car, and only reserved for, I guess, people that bought a new car with them. I didn't get that option. I thought, like with a 300, you just go down there, you buy a tow bar kit, stick it on, because it's pretty straightforward, it's plug and play, and off you go. I called them up and they said, no, you can't. Okay. So I luckily had a wiring harness and a tongue from the landcruiser 300, and they fit up perfectly with the exception of the bracket for the plug. So I've just sort of tucked it in there for now, and I'll probably make my own.
This kind of kicks off a bit of a strange string of events that people are experiencing with Toyota dealerships at the moment, or some of them anyway, and this is kind of a really interesting one. And this is where I'm not sure if it's coming from Toyota Australia or if it is coming from that specific dealership, but this guy has ordered a Prado 250, didn't get the tow ball kit, ordered with it from the factory. He wanted to buy one extra and separately and install it himself, or get it installed through Toyota at a later date, which is fair enough. I have done that many times, especially with my 79 series. Quite an expensive vehicle as it is, and just like these Prados are, the prices of them are creeping up higher and higher every year, but also with every iteration of the Prado. And you don't always want to spend all that money straight away, all in the one go. It's nice to get the vehicle, maybe have it for a month or two, chuck on the tow ball, get a tow kit installed into it, maybe do a bull bar at the same time, little bits and pieces as you go. So this is a bit of a strange one that Toyota have said, no, for the first 4 months, we're not going to sell individual parts, such as a tow kit or a tongue and ball kit to go with it, or even the wiring harness and things like that. They're just not going to do it. And that's just blows me away. Again, like I said, it starts this string of strange experiences that's happening, and that's stories that are coming out of people's ownerships, and also that people are experiencing through Toyota at the moment. I don't know what possible reason that Toyota would have for not wanting to install or not having, or not wanting people to put a tow ball or tow kit on that Prado in the first 3 or 4 months. If you guys have any ideas as to why this could be, let me know down in the comments section, because this for me is just absolutely baffling. So I would love to know the reason for this, and hopefully 2020 Jayco Expander will do a little bit of a video maybe in a few months after Toyota have lifted this kind of ban on things. But again, like I said, it's a bit baffling. One of the things that I really want to mention in today's video is that Toyota didn't release the GCM of the Prado 250. So until like this week, which, this is now the week after the 250's been released, they didn't even release the spec sheet, and it's not complete. So I've got a spec sheet here that's accurate as of November. So it's the most accurate spec sheet that Toyota have. There's no breakover angles, there's nothing. So I will be getting into that shortly. Like I said, it's baffling. I don't know what possible reason that the dealership would say that we can't give you a part, which is just going to be a genuine Toyota part, and within 4 months. Makes no sense. So with that, let's move on to my next point. So again, this is kind of linked to 2020 Jayco Expander's point, where this one is a comment from the landcruiser Prado 250 Australia Facebook page, which is one of the bigger Facebook pages for the Prado at the moment. So going through there, trying to get a bit of an idea as to whether or not I want to purchase one of these. So I'm kind of just getting a lay of the land, seeing what owners' experiences are like so far on there. So this is really the only one that I could find to do with kind of dealerships and that. This one said, hey, another thing about the higher cost models, do not get accessories with the car, as you pay the 33% LCT, I assume Land Cruiser tax, on all accessories. Also, this also raises your stamp duty. So we have got them adding accessories, but as a different quote. So this person, Nicholas, is concerned that by adding genuine accessories before the stamp duty has been applied, the vehicle would then increase in value, or the invoice or quote would increase in cost, and then you get stamp duty on top of that. So, and the comments generally were, there's only one comment at the time, but there was more later on about the fact that most people will end up actually just purchasing these aftermarket or take delivery of the vehicle, put them on afterwards. But this does raise a good point in that if you wanted to, say, keep the cost of the vehicle down and the stamp duty down and whatnot, then it could be a problem if you want to order the tow bar separately and put it on, when, say, for example, like we just saw that last clip, then the dealership isn't going to let you do that for 4 months. So what are you going to do with a vehicle that you can't tow with? Now, 2020 Expander, what he did was he ended up using the 300 series kit. So if you want to see how he did that, go ahead, check it out. But he ended up going on later on in the video and actually installing a 300 series towing kit on there, which actually ended up fitting quite well. He did need a couple of adapter plugs and stuff, which he didn't have with him, so he wasn't able to finish the project. But it was really good to see that, the parts are being interchangeable, which is great for Toyota and for Toyota owners moving forward, because it means that you won't have to wait as long for parts, and you don't have to wait for that development to happen specifically for each vehicle, which I guess is this kind of a universal platform that they're aiming for. So I guess that's a good thing in some respects, but this kind of again links to that point where if you want to save some cash, not spend the money, and like this guy is saying, getting that stamp duty added on at the end, you want to put the parts on afterwards, it's going to cost you a bit of time because the dealership doesn't look like they want to install the aftermarket parts on it. Interesting to see if it's just to do with tow balls or not. But again, still on the topic of towing and GCM, we're going to be having a look at the comparison table now that I have put together, and maybe some pretty interesting, this actually might be a make or break sort of a situation for whether or not we're going to buy the Prado 250. I have quite a fair few concerns about this comparison table that I put together. So like I said earlier in the video, I do have a lot of concerns about the Prado 250. Everything from the way that the product was released, with the specifications not being released. I don't have a complete spec sheet in front of me. I only got the GCM from a report online, so it's still not from the actual Toyota spec sheet that I have in front of me and that I have for all of the other vehicles. So like that to me is a problem. Before I buy a vehicle, I want to make sure I know everything there is to know about it, especially if I'm towing with it. Like, you got to know at least the basics of what the vehicle is capable of. It's all well and good knowing what the GVM is. You also have to know what the GCM is. That's also really, really important for people who are towing and have trailers and caravans. So this is, for me, it's a subject I have to broach carefully, because the stats that I have in front of me from the specifications that I've pulled together, they contradict what people are reporting. And when I say people, I'm talking about at least one really top car reviewer. And I'm not here to call people out. That's not what it's about. But it's a source that I have used in the past myself for the channel. And if you guys go out and you have a look for yourself, you'll probably find it. But in that report, they said, and you can probably detect the hesitation from me being careful, but in the report they said that the Prado 250, to the delight of Prado 150 owners, that the Prado 250 is going to tow better than the Prado 150. What I have in front of me here, the specifications that we're going to go through shortly, it doesn't tell me that story. So I'm struggling here a little bit that, and I'm hoping that, listen, if all that comes out of this video is that I'm wrong and I've got the specs wrong, and if that's what comes out of this video, great. Actually, you know what? Good. I hope that I am wrong, because it means that then people aren't lying to us, or people have been, pulled up on the fact that they are using incorrect information, and hopefully they will correct it. But like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I'm just some guy on the internet, so I'm hoping that my research was actually wrong. But so that you guys know, I'll put up a little example here of the Toyota spec sheet that I've been looking through for all of the vehicles, and I also have the exact same specification sheet from all of the other manufacturers, but also the models within the Toyota lineup. So we're just going to get started with some of my little breakdown here that I spent a lot of time diving into. So let's get straight into it now, and I'll kind of tell you where my concerns lie and what some of the calculations are kind of telling me, and draw your own conclusions, I guess, but we'll have a bit of a chat about it. So the very first thing is I put together a list of my vehicles that I currently own, but also some of the Prado 150 and 250 and their competitors in the current classes that they have. So that kind of mid-size kind of SUV that people use for towing. All right, so we've got that. So we've got my FJ Cruiser, we've got my 79 series Land Cruiser, just for a bit of interest for me. We've got our Prado 150, we've got the Prado 250, we've got the Ford Everest, we've got the Isuzu MUX, and we've got a 300 series. Now, we have got all of those are the top of the range models. So I'm not comparing GXLs with GXLs. I just took the top of the range model for every single vehicle that I have selected here. Going across the top, we've obviously got the vehicle. We've got the curb weight. So that's how much the vehicle weighs, fully loaded up with all of the oils and everything like that. No passengers, no weights, nothing. We've got the GVM, which, there's people much smarter out there that will explain this than me, but basically GVM is how much a vehicle can carry all up, including people, luggage, also the ball weight of the trailer or caravan that you're towing. We've got the payload, which is how much the vehicle can legally carry beyond its curb weight, basically. So how much kind of headroom do you have to carry things like passengers, for one, but things like your water, bull bars, side steps, even heavier wheels, things like that. We've got the GCM, which is the gross combined mass, which allows you to carry all of, it's basically GVM plus how much you can carry in the trailer as well. So that's how much total mass you can actually have across your trailer and also your vehicle. You've got your towing capacity, pretty standard. But I've also done another little row here, a little column, and it's the GCM minus the max GVM. So what that's going to tell us is kind of, how much kind of headroom that we have to be able to tow. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting one. And there's only a couple of vehicles on this list that will actually be able to tow kind of the maximum amount of, trailer that it's rated to tow, and still carry its maximum GVM. So that's why I put that calculation in there. The last column is also the payload minus the max ball weight of the maximum towing they're going to be able to be doing. So as an example, we've got, say, the 300 series Land Cruiser, and most of the vehicles on there can tow 3.5 ton. Then that's going to mean that the payload minus the maximum ball weight, which will be the payload minus 350 kilos, because you're typically talking around 10% of the caravan or trailer is going to end up being the ball weight. So what I've done is I've taken the payload and then minus the ball weight to see how much extra payload that we actually have to play with for each of the vehicles. So we're going to start off with, the FJ Cruiser isn't a very good example, but I'm going to go through it anyway, just really quickly. Curb weight's actually the lowest on there, and I own an FJ Cruiser, so it's interesting for me. But the curb weight's actually the lowest out of all the vehicles on there. The GVM is significantly less than all of the other vehicles on there. The payload as well is the smallest out of all the vehicles on there. The GCM is also very, very small. The towing capacity is again only 2,200 kilograms, so not a lot. The GCM minus the max GVM means that I can't actually tow, if I'm at max GVM, I can't actually tow 2,200 kilograms. It's not going to work. So instead, I would actually really only be able to tow 1,500 kilograms. Then moving on to the payload minus the max ball weight. So if I am, say, for example, towing my maximum ball weight, I'd actually really only have, maximum caravan or, 2,200 kilos basically for this one, I would really only have 225 kilos left over in payload to play with. So you can see that these figures are pretty important. When we move down to, say, my 79 series Land Cruiser, curb weights actually are very, very small. I didn't actually realize that the curb weight was that small of a stock 79 series Land Cruiser. But you see that the GVN is 3,300 kilos, which is more than all the other vehicles there. The payload is almost double of some of the vehicles there. The GCM is 6,800 kilograms, which again is more than all the other vehicles there. Its towing capacity is 3,500 kilos. And when at its max GVM, it can still tow 3,500 kilograms. And with the payload, even like subtracting the maximum ball weight, which would be 350 kilos, off the payload, it's still going to have 775 kilos of payload on there. So still very, very impressive. Obviously, it's a Land Cruiser, it's a 79 series, so you're going to expect that with that sort of vehicle. Now, what we're interested in are the 150 and the Prado 250. So I've given you a couple of examples of two very different vehicles. Let's have a look at the Prado 150 now. And I want your opinion on this, so make sure you let me know down in the comment section. So Prado 150, these are the Kakadu models. The top of the range. So the Prado 150 curb weight is 2,350 kilos. So that's what, 245 kilos less than the Prado 250. Again, a criticism of people is that the new Prado is too heavy. Okay, so it's 200 and nearly 50 kilos heavier than the Prado 150. Okay, move on to the GVM. So the GVM in the Prado 150 is 2,990 kilos. All right, and in the Prado 250 is 3,200 kilos. So we're kind of close in the disparity between the curb weight and the GVM for both vehicles. What you end up with is a payload for the Prado 150 of 640 kilos that you can load up your Prado with. All right, the Prado 250 has 605 kilos. That 35 kilos could be quite important in the context of where we're going to next. This is where it starts to get, for me, I'm going down the rabbit hole here big time. So when we get to now the GCM, this is where things get tricky, because you have a look at the GCM and on paper, you're like, okay, the Prado 150 only has 5,990 kilos of GCM. It's not really a lot, is it? But look at this, the Prado 250 has 6,600 kilograms, so it must be better. Not so fast. Let's remember that the maximum towing capacity of each vehicle needs to be considered. All right, so we're looking at towing at maximum towing capacity here. All right, so my issue is that the Prado 250, on paper anyway, is not going to be able to keep up to its maximum towing capacity, not as well as the Prado 150. So let's have a look at the numbers. So we know that the Prado 250 tows 500 kilos more at max capacity. But what does it say when we go to the GCM minus the max GVM? So if I've loaded out both vehicles, can both, like to the maximum GVM, can both vehicles be able to tow their maximum towing capacity? Well, the Prado 150, the answer to that is yes. The Prado 150 can in fact still tow 3,000 kilograms. But the Prado 250 can only tow 3,400 kilograms before it gets over its GCM. So, that's a bit of a problem. This is where it gets even worse. So again, stick with me here. Because if you now go over to your payload, say of a Prado 150 or a Prado 250, now yes, the Prado 150 is not towing as much as the 250, but remember, we're talking about the capability of each vehicle here. So the Prado 150, when towing its 3 tons, will have a payload minus the max ball weight. So this is how much payload you'll have left over after towing your caravan, your 3-ton caravan. You'll have 340 kilos. Now, while that isn't a huge amount, and auto expert John, he describes the GVMs and GCMs much better than me, and I've learned a lot from him. He recommends about 500 kilos for a couple of passengers. You got a bull bar, you got, maybe a winch, you've got the tow bar on the back, you got a spare tire, you've got some water, things like that. So he reckons about 500 kilos will kind of get you off the beaten track. You're loading up with quite a bit of stuff at that point, but it's still not going full on roof racks, we're not talking about a huge draw setup in the back, big, lithium or whatever. So we're not talking about any of that. We're just talking about basically a bull bar, a couple of 80 kilo people, not even talking about a family of people in there. So he reckons about 500 kilos is to be safe. So in the Prado 150, you've got 340 kilos when towing at maximum capacity to be able to load up with people, water, etc. Now, if you've got a really basic tow setup like my parents have, where we don't have a bull bar on the vehicle, we don't have a huge amount of stuff in the vehicle, it's all kind of contained in the 3,000 kilos, it's actually only 2.8 tons, in the caravan, we're actually not taking a lot of things in that Prado. So for them, the 150 makes sense because they will be able to keep it under 340 kilos. It might be maybe 50 kilos or 60 kilos, a bit of headroom there, but at least you get a bit of headroom for the longer trips. Now, if you're towing 3.5 tons in the Prado 250, do you think it's reasonable to be able to keep it under 255 kilos? To be able to keep your payload under 255 kilos. In people alone, you could probably almost hit that. With 5 people in the car, you could probably almost get to 250 kilos, depending on the age of your children, for example, how much luggage each person has. If you have even just like a basic roof rack, and that's all you have, but you have like maybe a couple of swags on top for the kids, whatever it is you have going on. 255 kilos, from my perspective, is nowhere near enough. So then it's like, okay, so how do we fix this now? What do we do? Well, GVM is a great place to start. So if you do a GVM upgrade, you're going to increase that payload headroom. That's why people do a GVM upgrade. The problem with this is that we're already starting from a already low payload. So we're always going to miss out on that. That's my opinion. The next step is that, what about people that want to tow 3.5 tons right now? Are they expected to be able to only be limited to 255 kilograms? If you walked in a dealership door today, you bought a Prado, hooked it up, right? 3.5 tons on the back, can you keep it to under 255 kilos? If not, you're driving an illegal vehicle is what you're doing. And you will be told at the roadside, if you get pulled up, to leave your vehicle and your caravan there. So this is food for thought. I'm not trying to, scare anyone out there, but these are the conversations that need to happen. So when we're talking about caravanning, we're talking about towing, we're talking about how capable the Prado 250 is, these are the conversations that I want to be having. So now let's have a look at its competitors. So I've got a few competitors, and I've also got a 300 series in there as well. So for the competitors that we've got here, we've got the Ford Everest, okay, Platinum, top of the range. We've got a curb weight of roughly the same, okay, 2,512. We've got a GVM of 3,150. We've got a payload almost identical to the Prado 150 at 638 kilograms. We've got a GCM of 6,250. We've got a towing capacity of 3.5 tons. And our GCM minus the max GVM is actually only 3,100 kilos. So at the max GVM of Ford Everest, you're only going to be towing 3,100 kilos, which is nowhere near 3.5 tons. It's even worse than the Prado 250. So we move across to the payload. If we're just considering just the towing, right, and we're not at our max GVM, say we're towing a 3.5 ton van or trailer, you've got 288 kilos at max towing that you're able to load up in your Ford Everest. Again, is that enough? No, it's not. Isuzu MUX, payload minus the ball weight gives you 270 kilos. Go down to a 300 series and you actually get 300 kilograms of payload after your max ball weight. But the thing is, with the 300 series, is that you're actually towing pretty much 3.5 tons. You're 30 kilos off it. So you're pretty much towing 3.5 tons as it is. So these are the stats that are, I just struggle to see how, yes, it can tow 400 more kilos, but even when towing at the maximum capacity, right on the bang on the money, you're going to be limited in your payload compared to the 150 to the 250. You're going to be limited by whatever it is, 95 kilos or 90 kilos or something like that. So you're going to lose that headroom if you're going from a Prado 150 to a 250 and you don't do a GVM upgrade. So this is important because if people think that they can upgrade their Prado 150 to the 250 and be able to tow at the maximum 3.5 tons, they're actually not going to be able to, because that payload, one, is short, it's small. The GVM is also small. So because you've got that extra towing capacity, doesn't mean you're able to use all of it. Okay, and then that also has implications with the payload. So I hope that the breakdown that I've done here is wrong. Please have a look at this. I am still figuring out how all the GCMs, how the payload, how the GVMs and curb weights all interact with each other. But tell me if I'm missing something here. I really want to know, and I really hope that there is something in here that I'm missing. And this is my little breakdown of it. I use the spec sheets from all the manufacturers, and that's just where I'm at this point. I mean, yeah, sure, it can tow more, but it's not actually that efficient in doing it. It's actually, if anything, if you think, I'm going to upgrade my caravan and I'm going to upgrade my Prado as well, you're actually not going to be able to get any close, or you're not going to be able to get to that 3.5 tons, because you're only going to be limited to 3,400 kilos if you're maxing out that GVM. So these are all things to consider. Like I said, I'm some guy on the internet. I'm not an expert. So please let me know down in the comment section if I'm missing something, and I am more than happy to correct myself in a future video. But for now, guys, I think that's it. I mean, there's been so much, honestly, in the news and in this ownership and just everything that's been coming out about the Prado 250 that just doesn't make sense. It's just not adding up. I'm going to put up on the screen, just to finish off, I'm going to bring it up on my screen as well so I can see it. The Prado 250 spec sheet that even says on here, please note, information is accurate as at November 2024. There is supposed to be, and I'll put a little arrow on the screen so you can see it, there is supposed to be little specifications with degrees and whatnot as to the breakover angle, departure angle, and all that stuff, which isn't here. Okay, and if I open up now, the 300 series, for example, you'll see that it's got all the departure and breakover angles and the height, the clearance and all that sort of stuff. That's on there. But it's not on the spec sheets for the November of this year that's when it was supposed to be released. So again, guys, I'm at a loss. Am I missing something? Why would Toyota, or any vehicle manufacturer for that matter, not release the most crucial specifications for the vehicle at the time of the vehicle being picked up? And then my other question is, why would people then go and buy that vehicle when they don't know if it's capable of towing their caravans or not? Unless you have like a really small caravan, of course, but still, you still don't know. Like, okay, you get pulled over by the police, right? You're on the side of the road and they say, okay, so what's your GCM? I don't know. The specifications hasn't been released yet. Well, then how do you know if you're under the GCM or not? I don't. How does that conversation go? So you can see, I'm not trying to stir anything up here. I'm just trying to think in terms of practicality of you out there, or me out there, or my family out there on the road driving this vehicle and doing some towing. How does that look when you're actually out on the road and you don't have the specifications for the vehicle that you just bought on a new vehicle? Like, I just don't see how you can sell a product and not have the specifications of that product. To me, it makes no sense. It's like buying a new phone and they actually don't tell you how big the screen is on the phone. It's like, oh no, you just got to buy it and just guess, I suppose. You know, they don't tell you what processor is in your computer that you just bought. It's like, well, how do I know what's in it? Well, that's the thing, you don't. You know, you just buy it and just hope that it does the job. You know, that's like the closest analogy that I can think of. So anyway, guys, if I'm missing something here, please let me know down in the comment section. And and stay tuned for another Prado 250 update, because I've got a whole pile more information coming in. It's rolling in thick and fast, people. So make sure you've subscribed. Make sure you got the notifications on so you don't miss a Prado 250 update. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.